Hey guys, today in the shop we're going to get the rear suspension back onto the Project Drift truck and hopefully get it rolling on its wheels again. Alright, so like I said, I really kind of want to get this thing sitting back on a suspension. As some of you know, me and my wife just had a beautiful baby girl and took about a week and a half off of making videos, and I finally found a little bit of time between naps and everything to sneak in a little bit, get working on this truck. I got a couple other projects that I have to get a little progress on, so what I want to do is get this truck rolling so I can get it out of the shop and then get the DT466 truck back in. I got a couple other things. I got an F-150 I got to do a project on and a couple of quick things, so time to shuffle them around. But as you guys remember, where we left off last time is I had cut the rear section of the frame off and we welded on this new section off a short bed truck. So along with that, we bolted on these front leaf spring hangers from DJM. These are going to allow us to adjust the suspension height, get this truck a little bit lower, and we kind of painted everything up. In the meantime, I finished up all the welding on this. I still got to do a little bit. Originally, I was going to box the inside of the frame, but the more I look at it where the fuel lines are going to come out, I might not be able to box it right there where the weld is, so I think I might do what they call a fish plate. If you're not familiar with it, just kind of like a diamond-shaped plate that you weld on the inside of the frame, and you weld the bead all the way around. It's just another direction to weld, a little bit more stiffening up in that one section. But first things first, we're gonna get a set of leaf springs under this. What I did is I found a almost like new set of leaf springs and I cleaned them up. And the biggest thing with leaf springs on this DJM kit is you can no longer use the overload. As you saw in a previous video, I cut the overload stoppers off, but on the springs themselves, you have to remove those overload springs, and if you don't, you're going to have interference issues with the bottom of the bed and all that. So I got those off, but we're going to start by getting the DJM shackles in, and then we'll raise this leaf spring up. We'll get the other side done, and then we'll talk a little bit about the axle we're putting in this thing. I briefly talked about these DJM lowering shackles and the whole DJM kit in another video, but basically there's multiple holes here to allow different ride height adjustment. I'm going to assume that I'm going to want this on the lowest one. Now, on a project like this, I'm definitely going to have it apart more than once. So you'll see here, I'm not going to really tighten up all these bolts too much. I'm going to guess this thing's going to come back apart to make some changes before the truck is finished. But you really shouldn't crank all these bolts down anyway until you have the truck sitting on its weight. That's always something good. I mean, these are polyurethane bushings, so these are a little more forgiving. This center pin will pivot right on it, but on the rubber bushings on the leaf spring itself, those things are kind of fixed. So if you tighten those with the suspension drooping, when you put the weight down, it loads up that bushing and it prematurely wears the bushing, and it also can, depending on the situation, can make the truck ride a little harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the highest hole, which will make it the lowest it can possibly be. I'm going to get all the bolts started, and I'm going to just loosely snug them up so they're not cranked way down. And like I said, it'll probably come back apart. I hope not too many times, but you guys know how these things go. Now that the leaf spring's in, we're going to snug these two bolts up here, snug this one up in the back, get started on the other side, and then we'll go onto the axle. If you guys have any questions about the leaf spring installation itself, I have another video just specifically talking about leaf springs on a Super Duty, and I'll link that in the description below, and also you can click on this box right here and it'll take you to that video. That could definitely help you on a job like this, even if it is a lowering kit or just a factory replacement on a leaf spring. Slight differences, obviously. For the lowering kit, you got a different shackle in the front, in the back, and then in the front you have the bracket you got to change on this lowering kit. But if you are doing even a mild leveling kit on a 6-liter or a Super Duty, I should say, this shackle is just about the only thing you do. You do that shackle and it'll get the truck nice and level. So if you need that video, it's there. Otherwise, we're going to move on. I'm going to get that other side done. We'll fast forward a little bit here and we'll roll the axle. The rear end that was in the truck originally was open differential. So I called up my buddy Steve and he had this one kicking around. It's out of an 04 Super Duty, so we know it'll bolt right in, but this one has a Detroit locker in it already. It has 373 gears. I'm hoping that'll work with the combination we have. If not, we might have to re-gear it. We might have to play around with it. It's going to be another one of those things that there's not really a lot of people drifting Powerstroke pickup trucks, so we're going to have to play around and see what works. Hopefully this is the right combination, but either way, it's got a nice locker in it. It's got a good foundation, and the axle housing is in really nice shape. It's not crusty. I don't have to clean it up at all, so we're just going to roll this under. Just got a set of aluminum wheels on it just for now to get the thing rolled underneath here, and what we're going to do is get it under the springs, lower the chassis down on top. We're going to get new U-bolts. I had those bent up at the local spring shop. Whenever you do something like this, you definitely want to use new U-bolts. They shouldn't be reused. And that's part of the reason I'm going to leave the U-bolts not fully torqued, is because I'm probably going to have to take them apart again. In the lowering kit from TJM, you get shims. Now what these shims are for is to correct driveline angle if you have a driveline vibration. I'm not going to touch that just yet. I want to get this bolted in. I want to get a drive shaft length figured out, and once we do that, I can start measuring angles and see if they're right. Some trucks need a shim, some don't. These shims are definitely designed if you have a long bed truck or, extended cab, short bed, or anything with a longer wheelbase than we have right now. So not really sure what's going to happen with driveline angle on this. We're just going to have to get the rear end bolted up, put a drive shaft in place, measure all the U-joint angles, and go from there. So let's get this rear end under and bolt it up. I was originally planning on lowering the chassis down onto the axle, but as you guys know, sometimes with these projects things change, and I just found it easier. I had 2 floor jacks. I had one under the front pinion and one under the center of the differential, and I just jacked the rear end right up into place. Really don't know what I was thinking, considering lowering the frame down. Really a little bit more cumbersome, harder to function and move around, so just get this thing jacked up. But I got the new U-bolts. I'm going to put the top plates on. I left this center bolt a little bit long when I put these leaf springs on. I'm going to leave it for now in case I have to make any modifications or change the leaf pack. I really don't want to have a cut thread on here, so I'm going to leave them long until I get my final setup done, and then I will cut the center bolt. But for now, let's get these U-bolts on, and then we're going to get this thing sitting down on its wheels. So I'm sure the camera does it no justice, but this thing is low. If I took a picture from far back, which I kind of can't, garage is a little bit small, but it actually right now has a little bit of a Cali lean. You get that sitting back on the back end there. So obviously now we got to start working on the front. We got to get that fender gap a little bit smaller. So I measured up for a drive shaft, and what I have is 56.5 inches from flange to flange. I got a drive shaft out of a short bed extra cab 4x4 truck. So the ZF6 has the same flange as like the back of a 4x4 transfer case, that 4-bolt flange. That's also the same bolt pattern as the rear end here. That drive shaft is like 59 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that one out to the drive shaft shop, have them take just shy of 3 inches off of that one. And that drive shaft should work in this truck. This truck originally had a 2-piece. You can see the hanger bearing right in there. And I just want to go with the 1-piece because really with that short of a drive shaft, you don't need 2 pieces. So once I got this thing bolted in, I could definitely see that pinion angle is up a little too high. So those shims they provided with the kit, I'm going to need them. So you know what that means. This rear end's coming back out. I won't bore you guys with that, but I'm going to get that done, get this thing straightened out, get the pinion angle a little better. And I think once this bed is sitting on here, this thing is going to be really low. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get it to match the front on the lowest settings. We're going to have to play with that. I might have to raise it back up a little bit. So one other issue I'm having is the rear end here is out of an 04, and both sets of shocks are on the back. So there's a shock tab there and a shock tab there. This rear frame section is out of an 05. So on the 05s and up, you had a shock in the rear of the axle and a shock in the front of the axle. So I'm going to play around a little bit. I'm going to try to figure out what I want to do. I'm not sure if I'm going to cut the rivets off of this shock, the upper shock mount, move it to the back, or if I'm going to flip around the shock bracket. I'm going to do a little research and see what the benefits are of each one. If you guys know, definitely leave a comment below, because I'm curious to see which one would be better for my application. Keep in mind, performance, I would say, I'm going to guess both of them being on the same location would be better for me, but I don't know. We'll see. Another minor little thing we got to figure out is fuel tank. So this is the original fuel tank that came out of the truck, and normally, you know, this is about 1.5 feet behind the cab. So then you have all this room between the cab and then before the rear axle. So you obviously can't use this because this would be past the rear axle now that we move that axle forward. So you need a fuel tank from a short bed truck. So the smallest one we could find was short bed extra cab, same thing as the drive shaft. And if you look, the filler neck and the vent come out way back here. So this will allow us to push the tank forward. The only issue that I'm going to have to see if it works is this is all the way almost to the cross member for the transmission. So I'm not sure if that's going to work. I've heard through the grapevine that it does, but you never really know. The only way to find out is to get that thing up in there. I do know that the rear cross member for the fuel tank, this will work with the strap. It's just a matter of will the front work. If not, we're going to have to try to figure something out. A lot of guys, when they do these shorty trucks, they do a fuel cell or they put something in the bed, and I really don't want to do that. I want to have the factory filler neck work with a factory style fuel tank, fuel gauge, everything working properly. Worst case scenario, if we have to resort to a fuel cell, that's what we'll do, but I'm really trying to avoid that. So hopefully this tank works. If not, we'll experiment with some other stuff. All right, guys, well, that's it for tonight. I'm not going to lie, I'm exhausted, need a little bit of a break. New baby is definitely one of those things that if you've never experienced it before, can't even describe it. It's an amazing thing, it's an exhausting thing, and it's life-changing, that's for sure. So I appreciate you guys sticking around. This video is a little short, but that's all right. I think it's nice to get a few few videos like this out there every once in a while. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. Next time you see me, we'll probably be working on the DT466 truck. I got a few parts ready for that thing. Get that thing in, get some of the intercooler piping plumbed up, and maybe work on the power steering a little and figure out a few other things. But once we get that stuff done, we'll get that out, get the drift truck back in, and then I got a couple other quick how-to videos I want to do. Going to be some of those detailed step-by-step things on a few other trucks I got rolling around, and hopefully that stuff will help you out. If you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And if you want notifications to know when these videos are going to come out, hit that bell next to the subscribe button. And hit that like button if you like this video. If you guys want to see anything else, leave a comment below. If you got any ideas or if you just want to say hi, definitely leave a comment. And as always, guys, thanks for watching In the Shop.